Kubernetes for Humans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kubernetes for Humans podcast. I'm Itiel Schwartz, and today with me we have Dan Hicks. Dan, happy to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Dan, maybe share us a bit about yourself. Who are you? Where do you work? How did you get into tech? When did you start using Kubernetes? And then we'll continue from there.
Sure. So like you said, my name is Dan Hicks. I am in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania region in the U.S., and I currently work for Boomi. And I'm
Who's Boomi?
currently
Wow, 1 second, Dan.
yeah
Not necessarily everyone knows Boomi. Like it's
yeah
not, like I work at Facebook, right? Which is a bit easier. So who is Boomi? And then
yeah. So Boomi traditionally I will say was an integration or an iPaaS integration platform as a service. Excuse me. But now we've grown at great lengths to be basically an entire enterprise platform, a modern iPaaS for AI activation. So everything from AI agents to be able to integrate all your data together, data management, API management, agent management, and integration and automation.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like the right company at the right time, basically.
Oh yeah, we're growing hugely right now. It's a good time and a busy time.
Okay, and we can talk about issues and incident in a second that caused us to delay this call for like 2 or 3 times. Even it was more on my side. But before that, sorry, I cut you in the middle. Like,
It's
give
fine.
us a brief on your history. Like, when did you get into tech? What's your journey? Kubernetes, SRE platform.
Yeah. So originally I started off as a Java developer in my career about 20 years ago. During the, I would say towards the end of the .com bubble.
Okay.
So fresh out of college, working at one of these .coms that was basically worthless, making no money, with the promise of a gazillion stock options that were worth absolutely nothing, and then
Okay.
everything burst. But my Java career went, in that time it was all about enterprise Java and such, and I did a lot of consulting work, primarily in the pharmaceutical industry,
Okay.
both contract and full time with various pharmaceuticals, working on enterprise Java, and such. And that's kind of how I got introduced to, even prior to Kubernetes, but just containerization technologies. We were a JBoss shop, and I ended up 2013 timeframe at the Red Hat Summit where OpenShift was announced, the first OpenShift announcement, and just started to, being there as a Java developer and seeing all these containerization technologies there, and I found it interesting, and and from there went to, always keeping that in the back of my head is that, that's a technology that we should really be, deploying our applications as. It seems very flexible and such, and I ended up going more into Kubernetes. I found OpenShift, to be very opinionated, like most things Red Hat, in my opinion. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I went more the open route with Kubernetes and such, and learning Kubernetes and just taking a lot of courses, and it just seemed to click with me, the way that I thought about software and how software needs to run and be scalable and resilient and stuff. And then I joined Boomi 8 years ago as a Java developer. But say about 3 years ago, reached a personal decision that I kind of wanted to step away from Java after so many, a few decades there.
Mhm.
And there was an opportunity internally to move into our platform engineering team, more on the infrastructure side of things. And that's where I really found myself being able to thrive more in this containerized world, and being able to
Mhm.
uh, have the freedom and to define some architectural choices of where we want to go in our engineering department and how we want to host our applications. And Kubernetes was a natural fit,
Okay.
um, specifically, specifically in AWS EKS, but I tend to be a purist in Kubernetes, and
Mhm.
utilize that things that could be supported in a multi-cloud fashion.
So let's stop for a second because you said quite a lot of interesting stuff. And full
Sure.
disclosure, I also started my career Java development in at eBay back in the day. So I'm with you. I can say that Java is like my favorite language. It's not even like I don't think it's even like the top three. But I do have a lot of respect for enterprise level Java. Like if you need things that will work at scale in a big company, Java has a lot of insights, advantages. Sorry, but if you can maybe like share a bit about like why doing the transition from like it is quite like a big shift, right? Like in the end. So maybe if you can, and I'm sure that some of our listeners are also Java developers, maybe, or Python developers, or Go developers. So why doing that, and like what were the pros, the cons?
Yeah, I mean, it was 100% personal decision. Now, I mean, there were opportunities within my company to do this, which was nice,
Mhm.
and they were opportunities given to me because of personal choices. But it was, I had worked over 20 years, Java developer, and moving up to technical leads and architects, and all the different titles and such. But
Mhm.
always in code.
Mhm.
Not that infrastructure is any different. We all want to do infrastructure as code and everything, and it's still code. But it was just I wanted basically a career change. Yeah, I still wanted to be in technology, but I felt I had done all I could do with Java, and wanted a new challenge in my life.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I'm at a company that supported that change and gave me that opportunity. So, be, you know, wanting that change and being able to stay where I am at a company that I like, I've decided to take that chance. And over the past 3 years, I think I've taken it straight on, and even advanced already in that career change, and I'm loving it. I think it was a good choice, and learning all kinds of new stuff, but
So
still being able to apply those same architectural and technical principles that I've learned throughout my entire career, just in a different way.
so what is the differences? Like, what are the key differences of being like a developer, like Java developer, compared to what you're doing today? If you can, like, give us
Um,
both similarities and differences, if you don't mind.
the concept for similarities, the concepts are the same. You need to, whether you're building a Java application or you're building the infrastructure that those applications are going to run on, you still need to worry about all of your ilities, your scalability, your reliability, your resiliency, supportability, all of that. It's just you're coming at it from a different perspective. The first, as a Java developer or any application developer, you need to be able to support that in your code. On the infrastructure side, you need to be to deploy these things into services or managed services or cloud providers, or wherever, in a
Mhm.
way that, and in software that can support
Mhm.
that scalability, and configure it to be like that. So eh, they're very similar, the same concepts. um I think where they're try and think of some differences. I mean, the differences are, you know, in Java, you're coding your object orientation or whatever. You're building that to be supportable and maintainable by your team over a period of time. On the infrastructure side, it seems to evolve a lot quicker. There's constantly changes in technologies, you know, whether it be in Kubernetes itself or the technologies that can support Kubernetes. It's a lot faster change there going on there than what might happen in your code, and that's kind of exciting.
Okay, that's interesting. Like the customer itself are also different, right? Like how like internal versus external, or not really?
Um, I think it depends on how um I guess how your SRE team or your DevOps is structured. There are some paradigms in companies where your application teams are there on the front lines and on call, and then there's other ones where you have a more centralized SRE team.
Mhm.
So I think it depends, but
Mhm.
it's I feel a little more on the front lines now to the customer impact. It's a little closer to being out there in front and hearing, all the problems and the successes too.
Mhm.
We like to hear the successes too. So you're a little more out there in front than as a Java developer or an application developer, but those concerns still need to stay there. You always need to have, regardless of where you are in an organization. But this point especially gets lost, I find, in engineering organizations, is you need to have a customer centric view. You need
Yes,
to understand. Every developer needs to understand, not just what you need to do from a requirements perspective, but understanding why the customer needs it and having more customer empathy helps with your code or helps with how you host things and deploy things.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So maybe like share a bit about like the things that didn't work well in the transition, or in general. Like I said that one of the reasons that we were supposed to talk, I think a month ago, and in Commodore we also had like a lot of like good things that are happening. Some of them resulted in less good things, and I think like in every R&D organization, you need to be able to to cope with problems, issues, right, bugs, and so on. So, like, how does it work for you? How did the transition, if any, change your point of view of like troubleshooting of issues, or what's your take here?
Well, there's, you know, after working in Java for 20 years, you start to know a lot, and um, or working in anything for 20 years, you become an expert on it, and sometimes there someone comes with a bug or a problem or something not working a certain way, and you have an immediate answer because you've been there and you've experienced it all. The biggest change for me was, I didn't, I'm coming in, I know Kubernetes, sure, but I may not know, I may not know networking as well.
Mhm.
It's not something I needed to ever think of as a Java developer. So understanding networking, understanding, you know, more cloud-based technologies and, like VPCs and all that. That's something that I struggled with, but that's something that falls under my purview now to understand. So there's a learning curve there. Um, Even in Kubernetes, it's like, you take all the training and on a very surface level, you do your deployments and you have all your kubectl commands or Helm commands and all that. But there's some deep things in Kubernetes that can get you in trouble.
That's
Um,
for sure. Yeah.
Network, especially around networking, and network policies and stuff. And latency that's occurring and being able to observe that and figure that out, because you've got two layers there. You have your Kubernetes networking layer, and then you actually have your physical, quote, physical network underneath that. It's those are where the difficult problems to diagnose may lie. Um, just an example. things start to get slow down, and it has nothing to do with the application, nothing to do with the scaling. Everything looks good there, and you find that, you know what, CoreDNS is taking longer. Being able to find, simple things like that, and very simple solution.
I'll just say that
Scale it up.
if you're in CoreDNS, it's not that simple. Like, I never been
Mhm.
troubleshooting a CoreDNS problem that was super simple.
Exactly.
It's like once you go to the network layer, nothing is easy, right? Like, that's like
Exactly. And there's some, even between the cloud providers, AWS EKS or AWS AKS and whatnot, there's subtleties that drift from standard Kubernetes, like, kube proxy settings and things that, you're not going to find in a Kubernetes training course at all. You're going to find them when there's a problem. Hopefully you find them before they are a problem, through proper testing and stress testing and performance testing and chaos testing and all of that. Hopefully that's where you find them. Thankfully, that is where we were finding these issues. So, having a strong, it's important to don't just trust Kubernetes. You do need to test everything there. You need to do performance and stress testing. You need to do chaos testing. What happens if I'm deployed in AWS? What happens if I lose an availability zone? What happens to my cluster? And you can build your application to be resilient to that and have proper topology spread and all that fun stuff that you learn out of the manual, and put this in your descriptor, and that's great and everything. Okay. What happens if you lose an availability zone to the control plane? What happens to kube proxy? What happens to the things that you don't have direct control over? You expect those things to work, but they're not always going to. You shouldn't always have that expectation. And that's something we have found as a team here, getting into chaos testing, is sometimes Kubernetes doesn't behave the way it tells you it will.
That is for sure. Again, like, I think everyone that worked with complex enough Kubernetes knows the truth.
Yeah, so the fundamentals are the same. Going back to the Java development, the fundamentals are the same. You still need to have, some kind of framework, like, whatever is appropriate for your organization, test-driven development, or what, feature-driven, whatever your framework is, and fits in your organization. It's important to keep those fundamentals, whether you're on the application development side or the infrastructure side. They still apply.
No, I'm with you. So maybe share a bit about how, if any, AI changed your past year. If it's like tools or Claude Code or Cursor, like, did anything change? And if so, what?
A lot changed. And it's an interesting, very fast journey there. I've been involved in looking at and trying all kinds of different AI development agents, and there's quite a bit of them out there. And I try to get beyond, the what I call marketecture. Get beyond the marketecture and actually see how these things work, and how, get into the details, not just reading what's on their websites and what's in the expo halls and such, and do some deep dive proof of concepts on these things. And I've tried, AWS Q, which is now called Kiro. I've tried Cursor. I've tried Claude. I've looked at, one of the things that I've been looking at and we've been evaluating are, AI DevOps agents and SRE agents and such, to help with, reducing time to resolutions and such, and how can we use AI for that. Currently, I'm full in on Claude as an assistant, not as it's not doing my stuff for me, but it's reducing the toil. So, if I'm creating, let's say I'm creating an architecture vision prioritize architecture vision. I just and I hook up voice control, so I just sit here and talk to the computer. I feel like I'm in Star Trek sometimes,
Mhm.
to be honest with you. Like
I never tried to talk with the computer. Yeah, it works well.
yeah, because it speeds it up. I don't have to. I can talk in a very stream of consciousness way. And
Yeah.
one of the things that slows me down is when it comes to what I work on is, okay, I need to document this, or I need to have it presented in a way to my team or my leadership. And I have all these ideas in my head. And the slowest part of my work is trying to organize that for other people to be able to consume. And that's where AI and right now with Claude is helping me. I could just talk. I'll just talk about, this is what I want to do. Or these are the things that all in my head, and it doesn't matter what order I spit it out, and it's going to put it in a good order for me and organize those thoughts in a consumable fashion. And then I'll go back and move stuff around and tweak stuff to be more specific in certain areas and such. But it reduces the toil, and it reduces the things that, I know what I need. I know what I'm doing. I know what I need to get out on paper. I know what I need to present to people or whatnot. And I use it as an assistant to help me organize my thoughts. And that's the best way of using it. I don't think these tools are a means to replace. I don't even want to say developers, are a means to replace critical thinkers. You need to have, critical thinking is necessary for anyone in a technical position. And that's the number one skill set that you need to have, regardless of your level. You could be a junior developer, you still need to know how to think critically. And these AI tools can help you organize your thoughts and get rid of the manual efforts involved with them, but you still need to know what you need to ask it. And it's not a replacement.
I agree. So we are kind of running out of time. Maybe give us a bit on your prediction. Where are we going as an industry inside Kubernetes? What's your take on the future?
I think that's a good question. Where we're going with Kubernetes. I think Kubernetes gives us the ability to scale. Yeah, Kubernetes gives us the ability to scale, of course, but we have so many specialized workloads that are coming out now, especially with AI. Oh, you need certain types of compute, and you've got all these cloud companies coming and hardware companies coming out with new chipsets and things to help, reduce power consumption and increase tokens and all this stuff. Well, Kubernetes gives you that flexibility to have any kind. It abstracts that compute from you. So I think it's a really important technology in the world that we're moving into, and gives you that flexibility. One of the things that I'm sure my teammates are tired of me talking about, but that I absolutely love is Karpenter.
Yep.
The Karpenter autoscaler, I think, was a game changer in Kubernetes, that you can just say, these are my compute and memory and networking requirement and storage requirements, and you give me what I need. And you don't have to worry about node pool planning or optimization. It does it, and it does it very well. So when you have all these different types of compute requirements, it makes it so much easier to do. And that's where we're headed. I predict there's going to be so many different types of chipsets and all that kind of hardware out there to choose from. And Kubernetes is just going to make that easier. You tell it, this is the compute I need, and go out and find it for me. And it gets rid of a lot of the compute planning and such. And I think that's where it's going to help, whether you're training models or whatever, within Kubernetes. I think it can really scale to what we need in this world that we're moving into.
Okay. I think with that, I'll say like one thing that even though I really like Karpenter, in Commodore we see how Karpenter is not there yet when it comes to doing everything for you. Like we usually see that, for Commodore customer, we're able to top off on top of Karpenter 20-30% more. But I think the future is there, like auto scaling, auto right sizing. This is where we're going as an industry. And
Mhm.
damn, it's been a pleasure having you at the show.
I
And
appreciate it. Thanks for having me.